9 o'clock. It's 9:01. Happy Friday and the upcoming weekend upon us. This is a great way to wrap up the week because we will get to continue to build community, even if this is virtually. You will get to meet a number of investors as well as startups. Pitch Global has been around for almost 10 years now, right, Casey?
Yeah. Yes, including credits.
Yeah, wonderful. And my name is Sharon Sim, SKC. So we've been partners with Pitch Global for probably the last 4 or 5 years now. And definitely like what Casey said is we've been very delighted to be part of this community. We've made introductions for one another. We look out for one another. We've all become friends, and in the process of building our own businesses. Pitch Global has successfully, it's like a investment matchmaking nonprofit company that had kind of also known as a network of networks. So Casey is very well connected, knows hundreds and thousands of investors and have matchmade many startups and help some of them launch into much higher levels of growth. So this is a great place for you to be at if you are a startup, and we wish you the best of luck with the presentations later. And you will also hear from some amazing VC thought leaders. Tim Chang will be interviewed by Jerry, hopefully, if not Casey. And then you'll hear from Andrew. And then we would do some quick investor introductions plus partner introductions from SKC and TriNet, who's a sponsor of Pitch Global, and then you'll hear from the startups with your 6-minute presentations each. And you will also be match-made to your investors to do one-on-one meetings. So from this, I'll pass the time on to Casey to do what he does best.
Thank you, Sharon. And welcome everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. We have people from Europe, we have people everywhere here. And thanks for the eloquent introduction. Only thing we can add is about 5 years ago, we became a satellite of US government programs, NorCal SBDC Tech Futures Group. And we can pick companies in Bay Area who can create potential jobs. Our success record is very high. That's why we have been invited. We are signing up with San Jose State University Innovation to replicate it. They are more hungry, more ambitious. So, and US government, state of California is backing our conference on the last day of TechCrunch and the day after, which will be a place for CVCs. We are calling it CVC Meet VC Meet Angels because it takes you right to the point. So on that note, thank you everybody for being here. And today, the 10 minutes ago, the person who's going to interview our chief guest called me and said he's based in Tennessee. And he said that there's a severe thunderstorm. He's on the eye of the storm and he's run out of electricity. And he sent me the question, fortunately. So I'm happy. In 10 minutes, I have prepared. So if our dear entrepreneur in residence, Jerry Baranano, cannot ask questions, I'll be the backup. And how we know Jerry is because Jerry raised funds from state of California and started a high-level mentoring group for tech entrepreneurs. And he retired during the pandemic and moved to Tennessee. And we are very fortunate that he's lending his name and helping us as our entrepreneur in residence, CVCs. So today, Jerry, are you taking part? Can you dial in or are you in and out? So if Jerry cannot, then I have the questions. And so the show must go on. And I'm glad I got 10 minutes to very briefly write down the questions. So today we have very exhaustive event over 2 hours where the kind of thought leadership which will come in is as good as anywhere in the world because we are in Silicon Valley and we are funded by government to build the CVC network. And we want to raise the bar in terms of knowledge. Our vision about knowledge is like CNN calls themselves breaking news. We call themselves breaking education, because knowledge like this is very pertinent, germane to success, but it cannot be codified and learned in books. So today, we are going to learn from a very dear guest who represents an iconic American name, which is Xerox Ventures. This is the person, Tim Chiang. We are in awe of what Xerox has represented as a beacon for the tech world. We all know that Xerox PARC has been one of the uh, organizations which started innovation in Silicon Valley. And today we are going to literally learn from them their vision. So I really appreciate Tim Chang being here to give us his words of wisdom and how Silicon Valley entrepreneurs and others can become part of their larger vision. So Tim, thank you very much for being here. And please start, even though I didn't see any question, this question, please start by introducing yourself. Let us know who you are, give your personal background a bit before we delve into the amazing questions Jerry and you have come up with.
Thanks, Casey, and thanks everyone. It's great to be here, and it's great to see everyone. Some familiar faces and a bunch of new ones. So happy to see that. Yeah, my name is Tim Chang. I am one of two investment directors for Xerox Ventures, based here in the Boston area. The rest of the fund is based in just outside of New York or within New York City. Xerox Ventures is relatively new in its current iteration. We started last year and didn't really get started, or didn't really get really started until later in the year. So we're about a year old, and I joined about 10 months ago. So my background has been a little bit of a mixed bag, and as many of you guys know, there's not really a singular roadmap towards, I guess, ventures or towards the innovation space broadly. But prior to Xerox Ventures, I was at another corporate venture arm called GC Ventures. And that was the corporate venture arm for PTT Global Chemicals, a large Asian petrochemical company that's where I invested in advanced materials, advanced manufacturing, and clean tech. And before that, I spent a little bit of time at GE Ventures, another storied American company that had its hand in very important ways in advancing innovation in several different very important verticals. So beyond that, my background is sort of a mix of federal acquisition work within Washington, D.C. and intellectual property and material science and engineer by training. Now, my focus at Xerox Ventures, and I'm happy to share a little more about Xerox Ventures as well. I lead a lot of our deep tech and clean tech investment focus. Now, we'll also look at a lot of software, but for within my wheelhouse, I'm leading a lot of our investments in areas of, say, advanced manufacturing, industrial technologies, in hard to abate segments of industry. So clean tech is a big focus of ours. And we're really sort of the intersection of the physical and the digital realms. And if you think about Xerox, or if you know anything about Xerox's history, that's kind of our sweet spot. We're really comfortable at that intersection, really comfortable at the intersection of the cyber world, cyber physical world. And that includes areas like cybersecurity and IT services. That includes areas like a lot of the areas that we see innovations in driving the future of sustainability. And so we're really excited about what we see. We are really excited about the opportunities for us to participate and really advance innovations in those segments. And that's why we're here and open for business.
That's great. And definitely the name branding, right now people are overwhelmed by too many funds, too many VCs, and so names are becoming very important. That's a trend I'm seeing. And because they convey trust, they convey longevity across business cycles and all. So that way, we really love having you here. And clean tech, in our actually next event, we will have our new board member, Hee-Suk Jung, a clean tech head of SK Gas, who's made several billion-dollar investments like Plug Power and Bloom Energy in our event on 12 August. Jerry will interview him. He has interviewed him before in our event. Okay, so now the next two questions Jerry had sent me is fund size and deals per year. So can you briefly tell us about that?
Yeah. So you can think of us as a $250 million venture fund, and that's 250 to be outlaid over a course of 5 years. And then our commitment to do follow-on in the out years, you can actually think of us more like a $325 million fund over a 10-year traditional sort of investment period. Half of that is earmarked for reserves. Half of that is earmarked for follow-on. So our intention is to invest in our companies and to journey with them and to partner with them from initial check till exit. We are stage agnostic, so we can invest as early as the seed stage and then as late as Series C or D. But I would say our sweet spot is probably around the Series Seed and A. So seed and A and probably some Bs is probably our sweet spot. As a fund, given sort of our focus and where we can really add value. Now, I think there's a little bit of a difference between software investments that we're going to be making and then deep tech type investments and where that sweet spot sort of lands naturally. Our goal is to invest around, I think on average, yields per year.
That's great. And we really love that because a lot of traditional investments is slowing down in Silicon Valley, but CVCs are really stepping in. But entrepreneurs' perception is CVCs are for later stage. But every invest CVC we have hosted in this series, last say 5, they have said they invest early stage. So this is single most factor we want to evangelize, and train and aid people and give people access to, Northern California state of CA grants, advisors, so that they really go after CVC. Last time we had CVC head of Micron. She said the same. They invest all stage. They are financial VC. Before that, we had Goodyear said the same. Everyone, TDK invest early stage. But we talk to so many entrepreneurs. Oh, by the way, I'll just add this question. Do you have a message? What do you think we should tell the entrepreneurs to really embrace CVCs and shift their perception from bucketing CVCs from late stage to early stage? What do you think we should tell them?
Yeah, I think what you see broadly as a trend within the world of CVC is I think CVCs are transitioning more towards a professional investment house versus glorified technology scouting. I think a lot of the historic sort of sentiment towards CVC has just because a lot of CVCs had in the past behaved a lot like technology scouting units, and I think that still happens, and I think in many ways that still is appropriate. But I think what you see is a lot of the blurring, a lot of the learnings, a lot of sort of the blending of just best practices in the venture landscape and the venture sort of ecosystem and how to play in a constructive and additive way. And so you see a lot of CVCs deploying sort of a best of both worlds, right? Like you've got the speed and the financial sort of focus and acumen of financial VCs, and then you've got the strategic value add and value delivery of a corporate strategic on your cap table. So I think, maybe definitely over the past couple of years, but maybe even now more so in the current environment, my message to entrepreneurs would be, you need to construct your investor base based on not just money. I think right now money is very important, but also what value they bring to the table. And CVCs can bring significant value to the table, whether that's from the technology de-risking standpoint, whether it's go-to-market, channel access. You need to think about how to line that up and construct a syndicate or a group of investors that can back you and really drive you forward and help you become more resilient and more more effective in the months and years ahead. So
That's great. That's a great answer, unscripted, because that wasn't part of the questions, but we are really passionate about it. And this conference we are doing last day of TechCrunch, next day, this is what you just said, we'll make it the central message, because that's what State of CA wants us to do. So next question is, do you lead rounds or you follow, or both?
yeah, so right now we're just getting started. We have not led a round yet. We're not necessarily looking at every deal that we see as an opportunity to take a position on the board. So we haven't led, but we will eventually. Our intention is to get to that point and to start leading or co-leading rounds in the near future.
Oh, great. So if the right deal comes along, you will lead it now.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I think we're building this platform, we're building this engine, we're off to a great start. But for the right deal opportunities, in fact, I think just looking at the past several months, we've, in hindsight, I think we probably should have tried to lead a couple of deals that we've been very excited about and have had very high conviction on, both the technology, the idea, the market, and especially the founder.
That's great. I love it how we are also talking about change and transition and how everything is dynamic. That's a great element to bring into the conversation. So one thing which Jerry is passionate about, and I've also learned from him, is to ask, how is your group measured? So is it ROI or strategics or blend, none of the above?
So we would call ourselves a financially motivated CVC. Our ultimate KPI is ROI. Our measure will be to our CVC board is on the returns that we can drive for the fund of our size, right? So our ultimate goal is to make money. We also acknowledge the path to get there will probably in many ways be us investing in areas that we have an edge on, that we have a sort of understanding, a deep understanding, so we can understand and maybe recognize better than anyone else real opportunities that can drive those outsized returns. So we want to invest in category winning startups. And we think there's many areas, several areas that we do believe we have a pretty good lens on. And so in that sense, we are somewhat strategic. One of the things that when we were constructing the CVC and we were architecting it, one of the things that we deliberately decided on was that when we talk about Xerox Ventures as a strategic venture arm, we're actually more thinking about how we bring strategic value to our companies versus how we extract strategic value. Now, I think that latter part is appropriate in many ways for a lot of different corporates. For Xerox is transitioning. Xerox is a company that's transitioning, and so we think if Xerox Ventures constructed a strategic portfolio today, it may not be that strategic in a few years. So we're actually solving for identifying what it is within Xerox that we have unique superpowers in, right? We have unique value, we have unique strengths that we can deploy and put to work and really enable innovation efforts out in the community, and then to deploy that, to use the Ventures platform as a means to kind of put that to work, and then make a bunch of money on those projects as well. So that's how we think about strategic value to the startups, how we can bring it to our founders, and then we will worry about what's strategic to Xerox later on when we are investing in that second horizon, third horizon, those opportunities that are off and deliberately off the strategic roadmap for Xerox.
That's great. So when Jerry talked to you, he made a list of some of these superpowers and strategic value. I'm going to just read them out, maybe just make some comments on that. So I can like intro to customer, then system engineering, field service, IT services, including IT security and others. I think these are really good points he came up with you. So should I repeat them and you make a comment, or it's okay. You can make your own comments.
Yeah, I
What
can
you
touch on it because there's actually a whole list. I mean, the list is probably 2 or 3 times longer than that. But
Okay.
you know, a lot of it sort of comes out of discovery as we talk to our companies. All companies need a little different things, right? And some companies need more of the technology de-risking. And so we're talking about getting them connected to our park folks, right? Our researchers and our technologies at the Palo Alto Research Center, or our materials research center in Toronto, XRCC. Or you know, it may be access to not so much technology, but customers. Right? Xerox is, I mean, we have 95% of the Fortune 500 companies that we count as our customers. So these are large enterprises that need a whole spectrum of software and digital solutions for their businesses. Those are areas that we're investing in. Those are areas that we're looking for sort of next generation approaches towards cybersecurity protection, right? And those are channels that we're happy to provide. What we're talking about is C-suite type level introductions, right, to other large enterprises that we can provide for our startups. We also have 220,000 SMBs within our footprint. And if you think about what would it take for a startup to access 220,000 SMBs, that's a lot of doors to knock on, right? We can open those doors for our companies. And so it could be access to customers, could be something like, you know, accessing our financial services group. Fiddle is a $3.5 billion financing arm for Xerox, historically earmarked for financing Xerox assets, but they are rapidly transforming into a fintech. And so it may be equipment financing, or it could be sort of some other sort of approach where we can join as a partner there, or even just kind of sort of, you know, we talked a little bit about cybersecurity and you know, access through our IT services business to reach customers. Well, those are all channels that we can open up. We want to. We've spent a lot of very regular efforts on greasing those skids. So when we say we want to bring that value and deploy and open those opportunities up for our companies, it's just picking up the phone or actually shooting an email over to someone who is expecting you know, us to get them connected with the company.
That's great. And we'd love to learn more about Xerox PARC, because as we just said before, we have now become doing the paperwork to become advisor with budget for new San Jose State University innovation. And they really want to, you know, become center, because some of the other universities, they have too much on the plate. Whereas San Jose is hungry, we know the people well, they want to really make a difference. So we'd love to, you know, figure something out where some things can be channelized, maybe to PARC or vice versa. So can you just give us some idea about what is Xerox PARC in 2022 in a post-COVID world?
Yeah, I mean, well, PARC in many ways doesn't really need a ton of introduction. I mean, they've
no, contemporary, of course. The mouse and all came from the PARC. But PARC, what is it today? That's what we want.
Well, in many ways, the DNA of PARC still persists and continues. I think you'll find, and this is not anything, you know, secret or anything, but you know, PARC is sort of shifting towards, you know, that not only are they doing the same levels of research and innovation have, but looking for opportunities to spin out some of those technologies into startups. So that's really exciting. I'll make a distinction though. Xerox Ventures and Xerox and PARC, we are separate, you know, so we aren't a captive fund for Xerox spinouts. We're not a captive fund for PARC projects. We'll look at them, and we are in, you know, conversations with them. We talk to them all the time. But we think of PARC more like, here's a fantastic world-class, you know, storied research center that can bring a lot of value to, and they love working with startups, right? And so that can bring a lot of value to the companies that we are interested in and may invest in. I'll give you an example. So to date, we've made over 60 introductions to, whether it's to PARC or within XRC or Xerox or whatever. we've only invested in one of those where we made the introduction and then made an investment. So one so far, right? So we can be a very strong partner to kind of get companies connected to groups that may be interested, and that may in many ways precede an investment. Now, a lot of times it will be the investment first, and then we make those introductions. But we're pretty flexible and really kind of we want to be a champion and a partner and a good friend to startups, and we have a lot we think we can offer, including Park.
That's great. That is a separate conversation. Let's have offline, because San Jose State is very gung ho to really create change in the Silicon Valley area, and they have the name also, Silicon Valley SBDC. Now, Jerry loves stories. He always likes to mention that. So I have to, as bearing his flag, because he cannot connect because of the storm, I have to say the same thing. And I love to hear some of the best answers I've heard and learned is when Jerry asks examples of stories. He loves a good story and a not so good story. So why not you give example of a strategic partnership with startup which has been successful, and then follow it up with one which has not been so successful yet? Because I'm ever eternal optimist. So if something not been successful, then maybe the timing is a little ahead of the curve. So floor is yours.
Yeah, I guess I'll share one, because we are relatively new. We probably have like one success story that we could probably point to, and we did make an investment early on in a company that we saw as not only a fantastic investment. These guys are doing very, very well, but also something where we felt like we could use internally. I'll remind everyone, we're not necessarily solving for that latter part, but if that exists, if we can find a way in which we can drive efficiencies and drive benefit internally to Xerox, but it also happens to be a fantastic investment opportunity, we will. And so this is I can't say yet because we haven't announced the commercial agreement yet, but that is something that we're driving and initiated from an investment that we made last year. So that's something that we're pushing. I think Xerox serves to benefit significantly. The company serves to really benefit significantly. And we're just talking about a Xerox use case, and we haven't yet talked about the 90% of the Fortune 500 that we're going to introduce them to, or 220,000 SMBs. Actually, this is a company that's really focused on that SMB market. So I think we can drive a lot of value, and we're just scratching the surface right now. It's truly exciting, and what's super exciting as an investor is that they kind of, they're doing great on their own without us. With us, I think the sky's the limit. So we think that's a fantastic example of how we can come in as a value add partner and sort of listen to what the company really needs, and then realizing that we can actually provide a lot of that, and deploy it and bring that to bear to our company. So that's and I think there's more to come, right? We're just getting started, and that's just within the first year, a big win for us.
That's great. Just one point, which is field service, which Jerry and you came up with, that itself can be of so much value to startups. We have one company here in payroll tech, insurance tech, or related, a human PEO tech. In these areas, they all need distribution, and you have your financing arm too, which is very deep expertise. So when the dots connect, this is a very powerful ecosystem where our community will greatly be of help, and vice versa. So definitely, this has been very illuminating. Thanks for really articulating some of the nuances of the changes which is happening in the CVC world.
I think that's a fantastic point. So just jumping on that example, right? Large corporates oftentimes, you hear it a lot more with large corporates, but they confront a decision, right? That make or buy decision.
Mm-hmm.
And but I would say startups do too, right? Do you build this team that you'll need to find the right talent for, or this capability and to have it in-house that you'll have to pay quite a bit for? Or do you think there's a good way to partner and bring that in through a strategic investor that's willing to offer that, whether it's at cost or otherwise, right? Like, or free or whatever, that's something that I think startups can really benefit by thinking about. Is it really looking for sort of building that internally and de-risking it internally, or finding the right partners to journey with you in a way that's sort of additive on both sides?
That's great. Tim, we've reached the end, and it was very illuminating, and I learned a lot as well. And especially when me and some of my core entrepreneurs in residence, we are focusing right now in that part of Silicon Valley, San Jose, Santa Clara County, South Bay. I've been in San Francisco, so it has been more here. But now with San Jose State, we are helping them develop and grow their innovation arm. So I think we can have a offline conversation how Park can be also get some of those things to feed into. So on that note, thank you. Please stay for watch some presentations. And now we are coming to the next part, which is we are going to have some of our other panelists and judges introduce themselves. Then we will hear the thought leadership presentation. And finally, last but not the least, we will hear the startup pitches. So now I'm going to introduce our next investor who just popped up. He is Jim Simmons, co-chair of Caltech Angels and founder of Simon Goodspeed VC, Valley Insider, worked with Bill Draper for Draper, and he's our board member and also VC in residence. Jim, looking forward to your introduction.
Thank you very much, Casey. Always a pleasure. Casey puts on a lot of great events, gets a lot of people together. Yeah, co-chair of Caltech Angel Network, co-founder of Simmons Goodspeed Ventures. We invest in deep tech hardware, typically physics and chemistry based. We think we've got some exciting deals coming along, and it's always a pleasure to be, and we like entrepreneurs, and there's been some good deals here. So it's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Thank you, Jim. Our next, by the way, we have made a little bit change in the format. So once the presentation happens, all the investors, we expect them to make at least 1 or 2 comments. So the next investor is also a huge supporter for 1.5 years. And Jim is the one who introduced us, Nathan Pascarella of Hypertherm CVC, and the influential CVC who knows a lot of others as well. And Nathan, floor is yours, and looking forward to meeting you in person on Tuesday morning.
Yeah, thank you very much, Casey, and good to see everybody. I think I know a few people already that we've already said hello on the call, but it's good to be back again. Again, I represent Hypertherm Ventures. We're based about 2 hours north of Boston. We invest in the industrial manufacturing space. Our areas of interest are AI, machine learning, Internet of Things for the industrial space, robotics, automation, 3D printing, additive, advanced materials, and then just anything in the large infrastructure fabrication space. So a lot of Hypertherm's customers are large shipyards and or heavy equipment manufacturers. And we currently have a portfolio of 6 companies. We went live in 2019, and glad to be here again today and hear from some startups. And see you on Tuesday, Casey. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, thank you. Same here, Nathan. So our next investor represents firm whose colleague has been here before a few months ago in our UC Berkeley co-hosted event. This is person representing Lamb Research Capital, Dr. Kevin Chen. This is the first time we are hosting him, so really excited. Kevin, welcome on board.
Thank you so much, Casey. It's great to be here. My name is Kevin Chen. I am based in Silicon Valley. I'm a partner with Lamb Capital, which is the venture arm of Lamb Research. For those of you who may not be familiar, Lam Research is I think we're a Fortune 200 company now. We are a supplier to the semiconductor fabs around the world. Our customers are the likes of Intel, Samsung, TSMC, and so on. We have over 24 investments that we've made over the last 6 or 7 years. And very similar to Nathan at Hypertherm, we also invest in Industry 4.0 related companies. We, of course, are very active in the semiconductor ecosystem, chips, manufacturing, and materials, and also doing some looking around and investing in the AI ecosystem as well. So thank you, KC, for the invitation, and I look forward to meeting with the folks on this call. Thank you.
Great. And Kevin, I just want to reiterate that apart from being backed by State of California, we have now doing the paperwork to help San Jose State University Innovation to really replicate it on a grander scale in Santa Clara County. And since Lam Research probably falls under that, let's talk offline and see how we can help your startups and get help from San Jose State, because this is a very high profile initiative. And we just had our final meeting and acceptance on Monday. So on that note, before I introduce you to the presenter today, one word to all the startups. Please, the people CVCs we have today, they are influential CVCs and they are your entry to the CVC network. So whether they directly invest in what you're doing or not, if you connect with them, they could make intros to people from your domain. This kind of network, closely knit, is almost impossible for you to find in most places. So please look at everybody and learn about every person here. And our experience is most people are investing in most areas. Like when Micron Tech last time told us that they invest in health tech, I was like, wow, let's not even categorize startups anymore. And the next company is the person presenting is someone who's very special to us. This is the person we were trying to start CVC Thought Leadership events for a while. And last year, we finally found the right person. This is someone who attended MIT and Wharton and was a VC in China before came here and co-founded TDK Ventures. And this is probably our 8th event. And today it's my pleasure to introduce Andrew Mewa of TDK Ventures. And today we last time he talked about CVCs and how they do due diligence. This time we were originally supposed to talk about deal room, but some of our community member wants him to repeat how CVCs, how startups at all stages can connect with CVCs. So why don't Andrew take the stage and you present whichever topic you feel you want to present. So floor is yours, Andrew.
Great, thank you, KC. Really appreciate the introduction. I appreciate the time to share. Today, I'll be sharing how startups at any stage can attract CVCs. We'll have some time at the end where we can have some Q&A, so please keep those questions ready, and when the time comes, we'll jump right in. So let's get started. A little bit about the agenda is very simple. First, I'll describe TDK Ventures, then we'll get into the presentation on how to attract CVCs, and then lastly, follow up with some Q&A. Sorry, it's a little slow. So about TDK Ventures, we are a technology-focused venture fund that's based in Silicon Valley with offices in Boston and Tokyo. And we focus on investments in early stage startups that are innovating in material science or materials engineering. We have 2 funds managing a total of $200 million. I think last counts, probably 26 portfolio companies focused on early stage seed to Series B. and just actively involved in helping those startups grow. Here's a look at our core values. I'm not going to read all of these, but very important to us to contribute to society, to fund innovations that benefit our planet. It's also important that we work together as one team, working together to help our portfolio companies grow. We also are dedicated to delivering deep insights in the startups in the areas where we invest. And we are always about putting entrepreneurs first. They're the heroes of our story, and we really are here to support them. In terms of investment criteria, we look for venture-like financial returns, in addition to strategic value with synergies and startups that are contributing to an attractive and sustainable future. Here's a look at our key members. I'm not going to mention everybody, but we have a very strong team that's dedicated to providing value consistently to all of our portfolio companies. And here's a look at some of the investment categories. For myself, I focus more on industrial investments and mobility investments. And here's highlighting some of our portfolio companies, Send Elements doing rechargeable battery recycling, as well as Autoflight's electronic vertical takeoff and landing aircraft company. And here are all of our portfolio companies. All of them are amazing, and we're very proud to be supporting each and every one of them. And now into the main presentation for today, how to attract CVCs. Global CVC investment is really accelerating, and we've seen in the past few years that it's just been increasing. In 2018, we saw an all-time high. We believe that this trend will continue as more and more CVC funds are out there in the market and are actively investing in venture opportunities. And we see many global corporates that have set up CVCs, and many of these are very recognizable. For example, Qualcomm Ventures, Intel Capital, Samsung Ventures, Salesforce Ventures. It seems that now many corporates have identified value that they can add to the venture ecosystem through CVCs. In fact, some very prominent investors out there are CVCs. For example, SoftBank Vision Fund is a CVC, and they've made numerous investments across many different sectors. You can see on the chart on the right some of their very well-known investments, and we see SoftBank Vision Fund as just one example of how CVCs can really make a huge impact on the venture ecosystem. But what is a CVC? So many folks are wondering, what does a CVC do? What are they really focusing on? Well, just in general, a CVC is an entity that's established to achieve one or more corporate aims, and that's through investment in innovative startup companies. So these corporate aims could be financially aligned, or they could be strategically aligned. Some folks have asked, are you more strategic, or are you more financial? Well, it depends. Many CVCs will say, well, we're both. And some will say, well, we're mostly financial or mostly strategic. Some will say we're only financial, and some will say we're only strategic. And it just depends on the fund. And really what I want to highlight is one of the keys to understanding how you can work best with a CVC is to understand their objectives and understand how you as a startup can really contribute to those objectives for the short term as well as the long term. Here are some examples why corporates may establish CVCs. First, a lot of it has to do with market insight. I think that there are a lot of corporates that recognize that there are a lot of disruptive technologies and business models out there, and that by working with portfolio companies, they can really get more insights into where the market is going. Others may be more interested in new research and business models, and this is ideas and information they can directly take into their organizations and support their R&D efforts. Other CVCs are looking for new customers. It could be customers from different market segments that they're currently not working with. And so as a corporate investor, that's an avenue for them to identify and attract these new customers. Other CVCs are looking to bring in new talent. And so through corporate investments, they have identified ways to bring on the best talent for new and different products and services. And lastly, some CVCs are targeting acquisition. They're identifying companies that are attractive from an acquisition standpoint to bring into their organization. Just understand that almost all CVCs are different in terms of how they may desire each of these potential reasons, and some more than others. So some may be more focused on acquisition, some more focused on R&D. It just depends. And again, a conversation with the particular CVC will help to uncover more of what they're aiming for. Even startups have different needs and they look for different partners. Some research from BCG shows that startups are looking to get access to different resources from different partners at various stages of their development. For example, it seems that market access is probably one of the biggest needs that startups have cited for connections to corporates. And but what I want to share with you is that corporates can actually give you access to almost all of these needs. Funding, of course, through investment, market access, certainly. Technical knowledge and expertise. Corporates are known to have powerhouse organizations that have some of the best and brightest folks in various technology areas, as well as business knowledge and expertise, how to start, run, and grow a business, access to facilities, and talent acquisition. These are all resources that corporates can share with their portfolio companies. But really, we see a lot of startups that desire access to different market opportunities. In fact, this quote from the CEO of Sony Innovation Fund underscores how corporates can actually give or provide access to different international markets and just in general different market spaces. And so the startups oftentimes look at the CVCs as a launch pad into those opportunities. And so here's a look at some of the major benefits startups can receive from CVCs. It really runs the gamut from strategic collaboration to vendor channels, access to research information, help with brand perception. For example, on one occasion, a startup had conversations with them, and they said directly that that by working directly with TDK, that would enhance their brand perception in the market and therefore help their business in the long run. These are also benefits that some startups are looking at when partnering with CVCs. Well, how do you start? Well, I'll tell basically any startup entrepreneur that you start by doing research. You really need to get an idea of the different CVCs out there and see which ones are the best fit for what you're trying to do. And that starts with understanding their investment objectives. Usually this can be found from their websites. Understand how they typically like to add value, see if that's the kind of value that you would really appreciate. Also look for CVCs that know your space well. I think oftentimes some folks will directly go, some entrepreneurs will directly look at just big brands, but I think really spending the time to understand the VCs that are focused on your space can be key. Doing research on their past deals and looking for CVCs that can consistently add value over time would be very important. Also consider geography. Some CVCs have global footprints, and as you and your startup are looking to expand, finding and partnering with CVCs that have global access can be important. Also, building relationships with them. Is the team transparent? And as you're building a relationship with them, identify the CVCs who could be potential partners, customers, acquirers, or even competitors, and being mindful of that as well. But Really, what I want to emphasize is CVCs and corporates in general can be great partners at every stage of a startup's development. It just depends on the opportunities and the value that both the startup and the CVC are bringing to the table. And some may say, well, early stage companies, what value can they bring? Well, I want to emphasize that a lot of early stage companies, even seed stage companies, have value that they can contribute to a mutually beneficial relationship. For example, in terms of contributing ideas around innovation and different ways of enhancing products and services, as well as business models. Even seed stage companies can contribute that to a relationship with a corporate investor. Early stage companies can contribute via testing or running pilots together, especially around new technologies that they want to develop in conjunction with a larger corporate. And growth stage companies certainly, as they look to grow, can benefit from market access that corporates may be able to provide across different market segments as well as geographies. So growth stage companies typically you're greater than 3 years, maybe even 5 years, maybe a Series B or C company looking to expand more. You have product market fit, but expansion is what you need help with. That's something that a lot of corporates can really add a lot of value to startups in the growth stage. And lastly, the mature companies. These are companies greater than 7 years, probably nearing IPO. These are companies that are still looking to expand, but perhaps are looking for other opportunities. These are cases where joint development, different types of licensing agreements, and even joint ventures could be great opportunities to partner with corporates. And we've seen all these different types of agreements with startups at various stages. It just depends on what that startup is delivering and what they're aiming to achieve. But through a conversation with a corporate and really understanding the corporate aims and the value the corporate brings, startups and corporates are able to come together and find mutually beneficial arrangements where they can add value. And really, attracting CVCs, at the heart of it, is about crafting your story. Your story is what brings partners in to help them understand who you are, what you're doing, and really the long-term vision for your endeavor. Helping them understand what are the critical milestones and the turning points. And building and creating a story that is very simple and can be impactful, where corporates as well as other investors can understand fairly easily the value you're bringing to the market and really how your venture aims to be disruptive. I also want to encourage startup founders to be prepared to answer some of the key questions that CVCs want to know, questions around maybe manufacturing, questions around sales, questions around go-to-market, questions around team, and preparing that is important. Talk about your testing and validation, and really talk to people and see, hey, are they resonating with your story? And I also like to encourage folks to clarify a number of different takeaways for the listener. What does the listener, what is some of the key things you want these CVCs to remember about your story? And then take that all and to create a 2 to 3 minute elevator pitch. And the idea behind this is, if you only have a few minutes to connect with a corporate investor, what are the things you want to highlight? How do you want to get your message across so that it becomes impactful and they're able to remember you and then follow up later? And just be prepared. And as you connect with folks, be open to sharing that story, be prepared to answer their questions, and then be ready for the follow-up. And the follow-up is in terms of sharing pitch decks, info decks, and other information that could be beneficial to building a relationship with those corporate investors. And after you've done your research, after you've built the story, your elevator pitch, how do you now reach out? I want to stress that one of the best ways to reach out to CVCs, as well as any investor, I would say, is through a warm intro. This is an introduction through a mutual connection. It could be from either business or personal network. And these are most likely to develop into more mutually beneficial relationships because it comes from a trusted source. And so start brainstorming. Do you or your team members have direct contacts at CVCs or corporates? Are there any people in your extended network who have CVC relationships? It could be a friend of a friend. It could be a professor from where you went to school. Does anyone on your, do any members of your board have CVC connections? For example, you may have an angel investor who has a relationship with different CVCs. How do you utilize LinkedIn or various business networking groups to connect with CVCs? And do local business incubator or angel investors have those connections that can help open up those introductions? And I want to stress, you really want to start off by demonstrating value. Don't start off by just stating information, but demonstrate value that may be most relevant to the audience that you're speaking with. Prepare suggestions for synergies and mutual value creation. It helps a ton when entrepreneurs already know right out of the gate, hey, this CVC is working in this area. Here are some of the areas of value we can bring to the table for these big areas that you're working on. Also, reach out in advance. Don't wait till you need cash. If you wait till you need cash, you'll be under pressure. There'll be time constraints. It's not the ideal time to be reaching out to investors and corporates, because a lot of times you want enough time to get to know them and allow them to get to know you. That allows for generally a better relationship in the long run. Also, attending events, trade shows, and forums. These can be very helpful in terms of connecting with investors and partners. They're great. Actually, I've met a few folks and entrepreneurs that way, and certainly those can go a long way in terms of building relationships as well. The thing that I also want to stress is use a cold email as a last resort. I've talked to so many different investors and CVCs, and really just cold emails, cold reach outs tend to in general be frowned upon and tend to be some of the worst ways of connecting with folks, because as an investor, I get 30, 40, 50 cold reach outs a week. And unfortunately, it's just hard to connect with a lot of folks that way. Lastly, I want to emphasize, you need to follow up. It's not just about having that first meeting, but it's about following up and consistently maintaining and building on that relationship so that really both parties, the corporate as well as the startup, can really build a better understanding of each other and work on different ideas for mutual value creation. And I think that's the end of my presentation. I'd like to open up the floor to questions.
Yeah, Andrew, thanks once again. This is such a, iconic presentation. So if you're in town, and would highly recommend, since you're interested in Europe, TechCrunch attracts the top European, companies. We were on private event with President of Slovakia last time, there in person, and our conference is the last night and the next day. So people would love to hear this in person. And questions. We also want some comments by our fellow judges to make it a little more interactive. So Kevin, do you have any comment on this? Or you have I'm sure you have some deep insights as well. Or Kevin, what do you think?
Yes,
Anything
just
to
turning
add?
on my video here. First of all, I think Andrew did a wonderful job summarizing a lot of best practices. I think having a very targeted pitch for a CVC goes a long way. As an entrepreneur, previous entrepreneur myself, I know the tendency is to have one pitch that you use for everybody. But in the world of CVC, I think that can only go so far because each CVC is operating in a different business and it has its own strategic objectives. Just like Tim said, Xerox has certain objectives. Hypertherm has other objectives, Lamb Capital, TDK, we all have different objectives. So it's it's not optimal if you take a general pitch and apply it to all four of us. You'd want to be able to research the company a little bit that you're about to talk to and customize your message to that company and maybe do a little bit of research on some of the strategies that the company has announced, or some of the strategies that you've heard through conferences and through the events that Andrew mentioned that you want to attend, and then try to tie your story into those themes as well. That essentially makes it easier for the CVC to connect the dots. You want to make it easy for your investors to figure out why your company is the best fit for them, why they should invest. So that's the only thing I would kind of augment. But I thought Andrew, you did a great job there.
Great. To ask you one more, can you also briefly tell us what are the areas Lamb Research has invested in and are open to invest in?
Sure. We have recently invested in Industry 4.0 and semiconductor related companies. The past is not always the best indicator of the future. I would say that going forward, some of the areas that we're interested in have to do with next generation computing and enablement of next generation chips. That can come in the form of advanced packaging applications, not consumer packaging, mind you, but semiconductor packaging. That's one big area of focus. Another one I think has to do with, that also falls under that umbrella, are things like optical interconnection of chips. So moving from copper interconnects to optical interconnects using light is another big area for us. So I think those are maybe two of the areas that we're interested in that come to mind.
That's great. And Jim, a comment. And by the way, I want to, Caltech Ventures runs events with Pasadena Ventures, and several of our health tech companies were invited to participate in those as well. So Jim, thanks for facilitating that. So Jim, do you have any comment on the topic?
Well, I would agree with everybody else. It was a great presentation. I would even say that most of that goes for if an entrepreneur is approaching a financial VC. I mean, it's really great stuff. And you know, preparation, you know, with our startups, we try to do that too, you know, when we reach out to new investors. So I thought it was a terrific presentation.
That's great. And Tim, do you have any comment?
I mean, I could just continue to dogpile on that. Absolutely right, because, you know, in addition, right, like VCs, corporate or financial or otherwise, spend a ton of time trying to identify good fit, right? And for a startup, you're, you know, as with any sales, right, you're looking for the right fit. It just pays off so much better on the long run if you can narrow down a very targeted focus for finding the partners. Remember, it is a marriage, right? Hopefully, if successful, this is a partnership that goes a long way. It's a relationship that you'll have for many years until exit. And so you do want to find the right fit. You do want to find the right partners to add. And there's a virtuous cycle here. You bring in the right partners that can really paint a picture that, you know, you as a founder really understand what you want, what you need, what you can bring. And you have assembled the right partners to get you there. Other investors are going to look at that as like, this is a company that knows where it's going and has the right backing to get there. So it all makes sense, right? And Andrew, you know, no surprise, like the fantastic presentation. I think I would also just add a little bit more color to that one point around that warm intro being just ideal. And a lot of people will see that and say, oh, that shouldn't be, right? Why is this so? And Andrew's right, there's so much noise, right? Not in the negative sense that, but VCs are constantly sifting through opportunities that they just don't have enough time in the day to dig deep into. And it is a high risk asset class, right? And one of the ways in which ways of de-risking is really sort of someone that can vouch for you, right? And that's at the end of the day, ventures is relational. It's because the signal strength is low, and it sure does help when someone who may be a mutual connection can say, yeah, this is a company that's legit. This is a company this is a founder that we really like, and you guys should take a look at it, and it makes sense for XYZ reasons.
That's
Great point, Tim. Actually, I want to add the irony of all ironies. Yesterday, Kevin sent a warm intro, and just to highlight this, as soon as I saw it, I'm like, "Oh, Kevin, awesome!" And I immediately, looked at it and responded. And I think, this is something that, it's just the warm intro really, really helps.
That's great.
I'm glad I did that, Andrew. I'm glad I didn't cold email you on that one.
That's great. This is what the inner insights we are looking at, why we do what we do, to get the knowledge which is not available in any books or curriculums. And I have a question which is also related to what Tim said, and also now Kevin as well. Now with when the market when it's real boom time, some entrepreneurs would think getting strategic investors would reduce their valuation, or they will make less money. But now when things slow down, that is the time when people will be on survival mode. So they will want to make whatever they can. So then they will overwhelm CVCs even more. So if you're getting 50 a day, a year from now, Andrew, you'll get 100 a week. It will double at least, if not more. So what Andrew and other people here, other investors, what would you do to deal with such overflowing inquiries, for lack of a better word? Because this will happen. We've been through cycles before, and then when things slow down, then no CVCs can write big checks. They can at least have some exit eventually, even at lower value. Then the survival kicks in. It's no longer profit maximization. So Andrew, what do you think? Can you comment on this? And how should entrepreneurs gear themselves up when the attention they are getting would even come down even more?
So how can entrepreneurs gear themselves up as they're receiving more and more attention?
Yeah,
I think really part of it is, as the startup matures, understanding for the stage you're at and for the milestones that you're trying to achieve, what are the kinds of partners that you want to align with, and what would help your business the most at that given stage. And as that's happening, then modifying your story as necessary. I mean, certainly the core of your story I hope should be the same. But as the company matures, as you're exploring different areas, understand how to continue to modify, enhance, and adjust your story. And then as you're reaching out to various partners, including corporates and investors, really figure out how to then deliver that story, and as folks have said, that is tailored to the particular fund or corporate or partner that you're speaking with. So this is an ongoing process, and as And another thing I want to add is as you're doing this, also check with other entrepreneurs in similar cohorts and get their advice. How are they doing it? How are they enhancing their stories? And in fact, pay attention to the ones that are already working with corporates that you think would be a great fit for your startup. Get their advice. What are some tips that they may want to share? So that's what I would say.
That's great. Andrew, thank you. We've reached the end of this section. And now we are going to do a quick roll call, giving the order of the startups. And then we will do our sponsor intros. Hopefully, TriNet, she's still there. Megan had a doctor's appointment at 10. So, and Megan, if you're there, please be prepared. And Sharon as well. But before that, let's give the roll call. Companies presenting are TerraBio, Braintree, Gox Labs, CB Therapeutics, Ascentool, and Incintef. So now, Megan, are you there? If you are still there, please introduce TriNet. Otherwise, TriNet's been a great supporter, and they're a leader in the PEO space. And what I really like about them is that they can level the playing field for a startup to hire senior people. And because they take on the risk and reduce the insurance costs. Otherwise, for a startup to hire senior people, just the insurance cost enough would make it unviable. So that's TriNet. And if Megan joins in, she would give another intro. Otherwise, Sharon, let's hear about SKCPR and how you ended up being advisor to Baidu. We love that story. So please repeat that as well.
Oh, thank you, Casey. So I run SKC, which is a 10-year-old PR marketing agency. This is the second agency I founded. This first agency was a startup based in San Francisco that was acquired by a top 10 PR agency. So I love working with startups. So we've kind of created a really nice niche helping startups grow and build their credibility so that they can have investors who would be interested in them or do an exit. I also have my colleague Morgan here on the line. So
Hello.
What we're going to do is going to give you, because we try to add value in every session that we host with KC. So this time we're going to give you 3 tips. All of you, including VCs, as well as startups, you're trying to build your credibility. You're trying to build your thought leadership in the industry, in the field that you're most expert in. And some of the best ways to do it is to get credibility with the media outlets that your potential customers or investors read. So we've had a lot of experience helping companies build that thought leadership. And one of the best ways to do it is by helping you with drafting contributed articles that get published in targeted publications. So we have 3 tips to share today. And then sorry, Casey, I'll share a little bit about the Baidu story after this.
Sure.
Okay, so these are the 3 tips. 3 tips for getting your thought leadership article published. First, you want to offer your unique point of view. I think we all went through this amazing presentation by Andrew. He has some great unique point of views actually that could be used for publication. For example, Casey had a great question about, a lot of entrepreneurs have the perception that CVCs are more for late stage investing, but that's really not the case. And if there is a story that offers a unique point of view, very often the media outlets that you talk to will be interested in. So one case in point is we have a client who is focused on cross-border investments. And so this client based in Silicon Valley called InnoSpring is an incubator platform that knows a lot about China. So we helped her with getting a story, an article published in Entrepreneur magazine that talk a lot about, hey, China is not just a market for you, but it's also potential exit opportunities. And this is where we actually separately help a startup that eventually it was based in Silicon Valley, but eventually got acquired by Baidu, and Baidu is the Google of China. So offering a unique point of view will get you some media and editorial interest. So Morgan's going to talk about point 2.
So point 2 here is make sure to provide proof points for your content. So you want to back up any claims that you make with solid proof. So statistics, third-party studies, your own anecdotes. In addition, let's share one of our other anecdotes. Stellar Cyber, which is another Silicon Valley-based company, saw a lot of high-profile data breaches at companies like Equifax, and their CPO thought that there was a better way to prevent and detect cybersecurity risks. So he used examples of how network breaches occur, statistics about average breach detection time, and technical explanations. And he was able to put all those together and prove his point in Info Security Magazine. And they got a lot of fantastic coverage from that as well.
Excellent. And what else do the world needs, right? What else do the media outlets and the magazines sell? What's ahead? What's happening in the future? So if you as a thought leader can really shape, can predict what's going to happen in your industry in the future, you have something very newsworthy. Beyond that, if you can shape the future, then investors will want to work with you and will want to put money in you, right? So an example in point, we have another client called Apogee, and they focus in the higher education market. So we help the client develop a story, another around the future of AI and the future of AR and VR for higher education. And that one got a really nice coverage story too. And it was just all 100% his words published versus when a reporter interview you and then they turn their own perspective in it and it's their byline. But this one, you get your byline published in a top tier publication. So we've helped clients from getting published in TechCrunch and Entrepreneur and all that. So a tip, so definitely you want to consider getting your opinions published in a publication that you know potential investors or your customers or clients will read. So that's our tip for the day. And just real quick, Morgan will share a little offer for our Pitch Global friends as well.
Yeah, so if you come and mention your Pitch Global affiliation, you can receive a special half-hour complimentary PR consultation from SKCPR, and you can get our special VIP discount for wire distribution of press releases. If you're interested, you can email Sharon at skc-pr.com.
Great. Thank you, Morgan. Back to you, Casey.
Great. Thank you, Sharon. And also, Sharon has brought senior editors of TechCrunch, USA Today and others to our events in LA in pre-pandemic days. So definitely person to know. Now we start off on the main course, which is presentations. And the first person who's presenting is a very active entrepreneur in Pitch Global community. He sold his last company for over $70 million, and someone who has very stellar background, track record, built his career, things he has done in the past, has made billions for very brand name life sciences pharma companies. So it's our pleasure to introduce Dr. David Mead of TerraBio, and he could take a minute and briefly say what it is there for CVCs for TerraBio, both for funding and partnership, before he delves into the presentation.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, Casey. It was really informative hearing some of these other presentations about CVCs. And in thinking about it, I think we have a very nice significant value to bring to the right CVC in the form of synergistic fit and strategic growth and a built-in exit opportunity. What we are working on is the next generation of tools for producing natural product drugs. And this is advanced manufacturing, if you will. And I think it's the future of producing compounds from microbes. It'll be faster time to develop the production and cheaper cost of goods. And almost as importantly, an incredible discovery tool and a modification tool for developing new drugs as well. So And then the other thing I forgot to mention was the sustainability. By overproducing compounds, you can reduce the fermentation time, the fermentation yield goes up, so the profits will obviously increase and improve. So those are, I think, some of the more salient things. So I'll just go ahead and get into the presentation then. I'm David Mead, the CEO and co-founder of Terra Bioworks. We've pioneered a next generation platform that reprograms microbes to overproduce billion-dollar bioactive natural products. And I don't mean herbal remedies, but rather drugs made biologically, plants and microbes. We concentrate on the microbes. Natural product compounds are $1 trillion worldwide market for therapeutic drugs, supplements, cosmetics, animal health compounds, and a lot of agricultural applications are coming up as well. Our platform is the fastest and broadest for producing natural products across multiple market segments. So this is just a little tip of the iceberg of the problem. Conventional methods for drug production and discovery are slow and expensive, and at the beginning took decades. It's been improved to years now, but the best example is penicillin fermentation. It took 30 years to produce large amounts of compound using old school methods. And knowing what we know now, we can short circuit that very long development time to literally months and maybe a year at the most. So we can do basically in months what used to take years and decades. And it's due to the tools that we've developed over the last 4 or 5 years. Here's a case study where Professor Neil Kelleher at Northwestern University had spent 2 years trying to correlate the metabolite called stravadin with a pathway. With our collaboration, we did it in 2 months, and that's a new world-class speed record. And there's thousands of compounds and customers that could benefit from this capability. We started our business as a research contract organization, and we've got users from large global companies as well as some of the most prestigious universities in the world. But what we've realized is we've made, cloned, and expressed pathways for several billion-dollar compounds, and instead of doing work for others, we think that we should develop our own compounds and patent their use to dramatically increase our valuation and provide a significant return on investment for investors, for shareholders. So here's a little bit of the underlying magic. Our genome mining, editing, and expression tools are a major differentiator for Terra Bioworks. Our DNA trap technology here is used to isolate very large pathways, up to 150,000 base pairs. And each one of these dots represents one of the pathways we've done, over 134 of these, which substantially de-risks our technology. It works. Other technologies are limited to much smaller pathways, as shown in this red dotted square, which is why it takes our competitors years to achieve their goals. Oops. Producing enough of a drug is a very serious bottleneck for all kinds of reasons. Our just patented dual inducible promoter expression technology can increase the yield of a drug compound 2 to 3-fold in a discovery modality and up to 100-fold in an overexpression modality. And here's 2 examples of 2 drugs that happen, 2 antibiotics that happen to be colored. And you can see with conventional technology, it doesn't really work. And with our inducible expression technology, you see significant expression of these compounds. So conventional methods did not work in this case. Terra Bioworks is the only firm with precision cloning and expression capabilities to identify fungal drugs. Our platform utilizes bioinformatics and machine learning to link the microbial genomes and their compounds. And this AI-based capability allows us to scale up the identification and production of valuable drugs. And we have 2 patents in this area. This project here, I'm not going to go into details, literally took a few months to produce and identify new compounds of interest, with the results being published very soon, hopefully this fall. Unlike larger, well-funded firms, Terra Bioworks can produce drugs from clone pathways in 4 different expression systems. We are also only one of 2 firms with rapid synthetic biology tools, and we can express these bioactive compounds in Bacillus, Streptomyces, Aspergillus, and in gram-negative strains. So this gives us the best chance of making a drug from nearly any microbe. Again, our mature technology can capture, express, and manipulate bigger, more complex pathways across multiple species than anyone else. We have 2 issued patents, with 1 in the USPTO queue. And even though these are great foundational patents, they're really valuable, worth hundreds of millions of IP will be the cloning and expression and overproduction of existing drugs or new compounds. This IP will protect the manufacturing and sequence of any small molecule compound we produce. And this is just the beginning of this phase of producing drugs. We're at the very beginning here. So the natural product compounds we are pursuing are substantial market opportunities, as shown here, and we have detailed technical plans for producing and patenting them. The main benefit is that we're going to reduce the cost of savings, for example, for cyclosporin and polydipsin manufacturing. And both of these are approximately $1 billion compounds. And by reducing the cost of the goods, we can license those savings for up to $100 million each. So the business model is to license or sell overproducing strains making compounds, if that wasn't clear. Again, this is an advanced manufacturing technology. We're seeking $3 million in new investments, and the funds will be used to manufacture existing complex natural products that are hard to make, such as polydipsin and cyclosporin, as well as a new compound to treat crop pathogens and fix nitrogen. Customers are existing pharma, biotech, ag techs with problems producing affordable compounds. Our valuation will increase dramatically, even with one of these projects being successful. We envision an acquisition to exit in 3 to 5 years for 9 figures. Once we've submitted patent applications to protect our IP, there are multiple revenue channels for growing the business. As I mentioned, licensing the compounds developed here to pharma and ag tech. We could also sell the same compounds to the research chemical market, and as well as seeking new partnerships using the data generated here to sell the value proposition. Proceeds will be used to obtain IP protection for manufacturing of 3 compounds, positioning us for significant partnerships or acquisitions. Here's 3 examples of very large deals that involve former Terra Bioworks customers. Natural product companies in our space, such as WarpDrive Bio, LifeMine, and Lotus Therapeutics, that have been acquired or seen very large partnering opportunities. The Terra team has led corporations through large strategic transactions, and we are leaders in the natural products space. I started and sold my previous company called Lucid, $70 million 4 years ago. And I also invented a technology called TA cloning at the dawn of my career that has generated almost $1 billion for Thermo Fisher over the last 20, 25 years. Our board and advisory board has broad skills and sets and brings world-class expertise in their respective field. Neil Kelleher is a metabologenomics expert. Nancy Keller is the godmother of functional natural products genetics, and Mark Lyles adds agritech expertise. Ken and David provide pharma small molecule manufacturing and marketing expertise, and Klaus is a synthetic biology pioneer who started a successful company. So in summary, our platform addresses major pain points in the industry, such as producing enough compound, generating new starting points, and most importantly, 10 times faster time to results. We've created traction as a service business, and we have substantially de-risked our platform many times over. We have an experienced team that has started and exited from biotech companies with substantial liquidity. And once more, Terra Bioworks is the fastest and broadest platform for producing natural products across multiple market segments. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. We went over the time a bit. We could take one quick question. Otherwise, David, if you have to have a wish list of connecting with top 3 CVCs, any, can you mention some names?
Absolutely. Novartis and Pfizer and GKS would be the top 3.
Oh, great. And in our event next month where you're a sponsor, we have keynote by CVC leader of Takeda Ventures, who
They
ran
would be an excellent one as well.
Yeah, who ran Novartis DRX fund with Qualcomm before. So he knows Novartis as well. So let's talk offline so that we really prep you to hit the bullseye with him. Jim, do you have a quick question?
No, I talked with Dave
All
before.
right.
I think it's a powerful deal.
Okay, awesome. So we have to go on to the next. Stop sharing the screen. And that our next company, welcome back. We are beginning to know them. And they are a joint Silicon Valley and London company, have raised $11 million before. Plus, company is Braintree, and person presenting is Vasily Nikolov.
Hello, good
Welcome.
morning, good afternoon.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time. Let me share my screen. Just a second. Okay, do you see my screen now? Okay, I assume you can see my screen, right? Okay, so my name is Vasily. I'm the CEO of Braintree. The mission of Braintree is to develop strong artificial intelligence on the basis of our proprietary symbolic AI theory. So we in Braintree believe that the only bottleneck to create a real strong artificial intelligence is symbolic artificial intelligence versus sub-symbolic developed by most other people. And the key difference, you can compare it to subconscious and conscious mind. Like when you ride a bicycle, when you walk, when you do some mechanical things, you don't really think about how you do it. Your body does it for you. And in AI world, that's comparable to sub-symbolic AI, which is in fact just very complex statistical models where parameters are kind of fine-tuned automatically. We are developing which can be compared to conscious mind, the mind with which we think, with which we operate with certain logic, with certain knowledge. I can teach you mathematics, I can teach you physics, but I cannot teach you mathematics. I cannot teach you how to ride a bicycle. So we are working on the symbolic AI, which can be compared to conscious mind. And our first product on the basis of our proprietary theory, which is called Absolute Business Control System, is ready for deployment. And we have made a first POC on which demonstrated very good results. So the idea behind, so the problem that ABC solves is the fact that big corporations are getting more and more complex. At the same time, environment changes fast. And in most large corporations, all business processes were tuned over time manually. And now when environment changes, COVID, wars, and so on, they have tough times adjusting their business process to this new environment. And another problem that they're facing, they have lots of data, but in order to translate this data into valuable business insights, there is still lots of manual work to be done by data engineers who need to come on board, make very complex SQL queries, put another dashboard. After a while, managers end up with too many dashboards and it becomes a whole mess. So our solution is ABC, which is an augmented business intelligence system, which after installation understands all the business process in the company. Once connects to all data sources, it communicates to users in business terms. It automatically monitors all the business process in the company and sends alerts in case one of the business processes get deviated from normal. It even tracks something that has not yet happened but is likely to happen and allows managers to play with scenarios and predict the future. So for instance, now fuel prices rise, what will happen to your bottom line if the price rise even further, or if they raise not that much, and what can you do in order to mitigate these risks. All of this can be done very easily, simply, automatically. So we're speaking about like a perfect data engineer or data analyst or McKinsey consultant in a box that works 24/7 and whose only mission is to help managers manage their company. So onboarding is very simple. So we feed into the system previous data. The system understands what are the likely business processes in the company. If not, asks questions to validate. And after a few days, maximum 2 weeks, it is up and running. So what it means to customers, it does both lowering costs because it mitigates deviations from business process, and on top of that, it identifies cost reduction opportunities that nobody ever thought of. And by identifying new business opportunities, it increases revenues. So for instance, in the first POC that we did, the ROI on the investment for them was more than 10x. So the market size in the range of tens of billions of dollars. The key competitors, is difficult to speak about them because now nobody does exactly what we do. The closest ones are major BI players who are all multi-billion-dollar corporations. We and unicorns, so we do a step deeper. So these BI tools are just visualization tools, while what we go do is automation the level below that, meaning developing SQL queries and automation data gathering and data insights. So current status, we made a POC for a major Fortune 500 client. We identified pretty much a 50% of fuel cost reduction opportunity in the trucking division. So now we're discussing a pilot project in the range of 3 to 500K in revenue. So there are many corporations that demonstrated interest in talking to us. Here are some names. There are some more names in the pipeline as well. So business model, traditional B2B SaaS, where we expect to charge in the range of hundreds of thousands up to millions of dollars per customer, depending on the size of the customer. The team is best of the best from here in Silicon Valley and from London. And we are seeking to raise a late seed round in the range of $5 to $7 million, which will take us to round A in the second half of next year. So by round A in the second half of next year, we plan to achieve revenues of over $1 million. And yeah, these are our expectations. So happy to answer any questions you may have.
Well, we have some experts on the field. Can you just stop sharing, because my video is not clicking. We have some experts here. So is there any question? Anyway, you are meeting with Xerox, he's excited to meet you later, but in case there is any question here, we can take it. Otherwise it can be, offline.
Sure.
Tim, Kevin, any question? Tim, any question?
Yeah, obviously, I think we're connecting later on one-on-one. So I think my initial question would be: you're ingesting a lot of business data to inform this business intelligence tool.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of companies might have that data. A lot of them don't, and even if they have that data, it's quite messy. So how are you approaching sort of the data ingestion problem?
You're absolutely right. This is one of the bigger problems. So there is a complex approach to that. From one hand, of course, if there is no data, there's not much the system can do. So we operate in systems where there is some data. If the data is messy, there are plenty of ways to clean up the data, and that's part of the system that it does. During the setup process, it looks at the past data and it understands what it is, kind of does automatic cleanup, and it asks questions to management on the way or during the setup if it understood it correctly. So all of this is done in a semi-automatic mode during the setup process. So from our experience, this is done by far much faster and easier than any other system on the market. But yeah, at the same time, yeah, you're right, there's no magic.
And are we talking about API plugins with like CRMs and these other tools that these companies may already be using? Is that what we're talking about?
We are using these connectors whenever it is possible. At the same time, the major trick is in the AI, which is looking through this data and understands what it is. I'm happy to connect you to our CTO, who will explain it in more details at a later stage.
Yeah, so in the one-on-one, include him as well. So
course, definitely.
yeah, just wait. And my also one other comment, are you talking to companies like Oracle, SAP, or even Salesforce? Some of them, they could be competitor, but they could already have resources which could create a win-win for you, or even smaller companies like Informatica. So are you in touch with some of them? NetSuite?
Not yet. This is on our plan to get in touch with them, because you're absolutely correct. One of the possibilities for us, instead of going to the market ourselves, to connect to one of the big players and be in the background of data processing for them.
Okay, that's definitely something let's talk more about, because there could be ways for you to connect. If like an Oracle, they are very like, they're very broad-based, working with a lot of companies, or SAP is more into the investing part. Oracle is more into the partnership part. So, all right, lovely to see you again, and stop sharing screen. Great. Now we introduce the next company. This is the only company which is not presented in Page Global before. Most companies present multiple times when they are fundraising. And today, we have companies which has presented before, raised money, and now has come back as well. But this company, Cox Labs, is person presenting is Dr. Joseph Hitt, and love the area, bringing safety to industrial workers, shop floors, and which is absolutely needed, both from an economic and humanitarian point of view. So, Joseph, floor is yours.
Great, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Let me go ahead and share my screen. So I'm Joe Hitt, the CEO and co-founder of GoX Labs. And what we do is we leverage third-party wearables, and we input that data, and then we do machine learning on that data, and we predict future injuries. And we are a B2B solution. And today, we have been very, very lucky in 2022 with very successful traction across a large number of very well-known companies. For example, Ford. We are right now one of 3 companies that's vying for a very large contract. They contracted Virginia Tech to do all of the testing. And so we're one of 3 companies like ours that's going through that testing. We've been going through that testing for about 6 months. United States Steel, with about 130 sites around the United States and around the region. We are the solution of choice for thermal stress. And so we just started that. We just beat out our competitor at United States Steel. And we're just deploying. We've done the testing, the proof of concept with them. We've done the competition with our competitors. And now we're doing our first large deployment with US Steel. We are the selected company by CNA Insurance, the one and only company, the vendor of choice for CNA Insurance. I'll get to exactly what we do, but I just wanted to kind of let you know that this year of 2022 has been an incredible year for us. The captures we have, these are companies that we have contracts with. It represents over 3 million workers. Over, we believe, 300,000 subscription potential from these clients. Our current pilot contracts are about $300,000. Now, what's interesting is that 80% of our capture has been through our partners, channel partners and distributors, which helps us to really reduce our sales cycle from literally a year down to 3 months. And Samsung is a strategic partner, and all of the customers that they're bringing to us right now and that we're engaged with, we see about a $20 million ARR potential. We have 3 issued patents, powerful patents that I would love to talk to folks about, and 3 additional patents filed. This is a great area. 89 million workers are exposed to injury on a daily basis here in the US, 350 in Europe, and so on. And you can see the dollars and percentages. Now, we believe the problem is really increasing significantly if you look at things like the aging, the chronic diseases, infectious diseases like COVID, obesity, and global warming. The heat stress on, for example, in the military, there's been a 17% increase. And another one is velocity of work. Here's Jeff Bezos talking about we need to invent something new to be able to cut injuries. And one of the reasons they have so many injuries is the velocity of their work and the interface between their worker and what we've been talking about today, like Industry 4.0, you know, between the interface between robotics and people. There's a lot of velocity differences, and that's what's causing a lot of injuries. I would love to tell you about all the work we're doing at Amazon, but we can't based on NDAs. Now, what is our solution and why is it so novel? Well, for over the last 15 years, we have collected outcome correlated data. That's over 100,000 data sets. Our solutions have been validated independently by subjects with Samsung, the US Army, our Defense Research Projects Agency, and multiple paying customers. But what we do is that we've developed this kind of correlation mapping. You see injury is in the middle. And what we know is that injury is caused by many different factors, such as forces, form, fatigue, fitness, and environment. And we've been able to correlate all of this into models that we use to predict. And so then we use third-party wearables that allows us to measure things like temperature, heart rate, movement, and so on. And then we input that into our models, and it gives us a very accurate assessment of future injuries. And those assessments have been validated by groups like Samsung. Now, our competitors mostly focus on things like form to injury or, you know, loads to injury, but we look at across all of these areas. So I just mentioned that Samsung did a study. Well, they were intrigued, and so they took our dehydration model, which is just one piece of this environment, and they took 50 Korean men and women aged 19 to 60 years old, and they tested them from 5 degrees Celsius to 35 degrees Celsius. And they stated that our machine learning models were 90% accurate. We stated that it was 95% accurate. Regardless, that has led to a go-to-market partnership with Samsung. How does it work? Well, here's a Samsung watch. And then we have a partnership with a European motion sensor company called Xsense. And so you can put on motion sensors optionally, and then you have the watch. We collect physiological information and motion information. And based on that, when the assessment gets too high, the watch vibrates and then tells the worker something like dehydration, time to stop and take a drink. When it's connected by cellular or Wi-Fi, back to our servers on Amazon Web Services, leaders have a view, users have a view, corporations have a view. We can send alert messages via text. There are some key competitors in our areas. Now, what's different about us is that we address all of the key injury areas. The top three are overexertion, slips, trips, and falls, and musculoskeletal injuries, and we address all of those in this one solution, and at about half the price. We also have lone worker solutions and illness COVID detections. So I've been doing this for a long time. That's one of the reasons why we have what we have. I was a professor at West Point 2009, where I worked on this. I was a program manager at DARPA, where I focused on human performance for many, many years. And then we started GoX Labs as a commercial company in 2019. A great staff of people. My partner, my Army buddy, and I started another company before this that was number 27 on Inc. 5000 in 2019. We are looking for a $2.5 million convertible note. Of that, already we've secured 1.5 with a CVC, and then we have 2.5 million currently in due diligence with another CVC. So we believe in CVCs. We like CVCs, and I don't know that, I guess we're oversubscribed in some sense. So we're not in need of a lot of money, but we would be interested in talking to other CVCs as strategic partners, mostly for market access. That's all I have. Thank you.
That's great. We have gone over time, but very briefly, how about government grants and all? I mean, something like this, you can definitely get National Science Foundation, DoD. I mean, it can open up a lot of stuff. Is any in the process as well?
We've received over $8 million.
Oh, you should definitely put that. Wow. Yeah, just put that in the beginning. Wow, that's very impressive.
Yes,
So,
yeah.
and it'll only lead to more because we have an idea, companies we've mentored only in Northern California, how it works. Once they give it, it becomes more, then you become acceptable. No one will lose jobs by giving you a grant because others have validated you. Great.
Right.
Let's talk more later. We got to move on, but congratulations. Fantastic first presentation in Pitch Global. So thank you, Joe. On that note, we have to move to the next company. This person, he's a Y Combinator company. He raised 13 million. He pitched with us several times a couple of years ago and recently came back, and really excited to have him back. We love these stories where people keep coming back over the years. This company is CB Therapeutics, and person presenting is Sher Bhatt.
Thanks for the intro, Casey. I'm going to share my screen. All right. Can everybody see the screen?
Yes. Yes.
All right. So thanks again, Casey. Hi, everyone. My name is Sher. I'm the co-founder and CEO of CB Therapeutics. We are advancing synthetic biology for planet and human health. So as everybody knows, precision fermentation and synthetic biology is changing the world as we know it. Everything from production of food, medicines, even industrial applications are increasingly looking towards precision fermentation and synthetic biology to meet needs. CB Therapeutics is leading the way for the production of sustainable molecules for therapeutic and food tech applications. So the problem with current manufacturing technologies and methodologies is that they're very inefficient. So if you want to take an example, would be pharmaceuticals are usually produced through chemical synthesis, which produces 10 times more toxic waste than the molecule that you actually produce. It's very environmentally unfriendly. It produces a lot of CO2 that goes out into the environment. When you look at food production, it's sort of the same story, which is that we're using methodologies that are very old and antiquated, which lead to a lot of issues for the environment. Secondly, they cause a lot of other shortages such as water, land, and other resources that are used inefficiently. To case in point, for one production of proteins, it takes 90% less energy to produce proteins using precision fermentation than traditional methodologies. So what is our approach? Well, our approach is to genetically engineer different microbes and produce different molecules with them. So we have successfully done that with 3 different pillars in our firm. One is tryptamines for clinical trials. So we signed a joint venture with a company which is called Atai Life Sciences. It's a NASDAQ company, the largest pharmaceutical company in the world, for the clinical trial applications of tryptamines. They focus on treatment-resistant depression, anxiety, PTSD, very, very large, multi-billion-dollar markets. And we have a contract with them that we signed in December of last year, which is for $7 million over 2 years, where we develop specific microbes that produce specialty chemicals and pharmaceuticals for these companies. These include things like psilocybin-based applications, DMT, NMT, TMT. The second pillar that we've been working on and we've validated in our lab is food applications. So for example, we've already developed animal fats to be partnered with a company that makes proteins, such as applications such as bacon, but obviously coming out from the lab. We've made enzymes for cheese production. We've made proteins, different types of proteins such as whey, etc. We've made hemoglobin for applications for meat products. We've even made specialty molecules such as resveratrol, curcumin, which is found in turmeric, and other bioactive vitamins and minerals. And finally, cannabinoids and terpenes for clinical trials as well. So, You may have heard of a company called GW Pharmaceuticals, which was recently acquired for $8 billion. They did clinical trials on CBD, which led to FDA approval for epilepsy, and that company was acquired for $8 billion. In fact, we just onboarded their chief medical officer, Dr. Stephen Wright, and he's helping us work with the Cleveland Clinic to develop next generation therapies in this space. So tryptamines, again, is a very big market, focusing mostly on treatment-resistant depression, PTSD, anxiety, substance abuse disorders, all in the pharmaceutical application side. Food tech, I mean, everybody needs to eat food, so we're definitely focused there. We are in conversation with a couple big groups in the space for leveraging our IP and creating a joint venture. Cannabinoids as well. The cannabinoid pharmaceutical market is just getting started, and companies such as Pfizer, Takeda, others have invested significant amount of resources in clinical trials. In general, as a company, our strategy is very opportunistic. We look for molecules and niches in various pharma and food tech markets where we can deploy our tech, file some patents, create different technologies, and then we go out and we find partners to drive joint ventures and deploy the technology out there. So our competitive advantage is that I'm a second-time founder of a startup. I sold my previous company, which was in the lab testing space in Northern California. This is the fourth startup I've been a part of. All of them have been very successful. My co-founder is a PhD from Berkeley in bioengineering. We have a great team, which I'll get into a little later. We have 7 granted patents on the technology, everything from the upstream work within the different microorganisms all the way down to downstream and purification as well. And including a patent on our new bioinformatics platform, which really helps when you're doing this sort of work for multiple customers. We have a globally recognized advisory board. We just opened up our brand new facility, which has nearly $10 million worth of equipment, 16,000 square feet here in Carlsbad, California. We had our first partnership with Atai Life Sciences, which is going to net us roughly $7 million over 2.5 years. And then we were already making recurring revenues, IP licensing fees, and then we have other benefits from these partnerships such as royalties, manufacturing margins, etc. Here's a brief look at our current facility that we just opened in Carlsbad a few months ago. It's got everything from strain development to next generation precision fermentation equipment, microfermentation equipment, purification, downstream, microbiological additions, and finally a full suite of analytical testing. We have everything from GCs to LCs and MSs, etc. So a little bit about myself. I am a second-time founder of a company. My background is in biochemistry. I also led the largest cannabis testing lab in the world up in Berkeley, California for a few years. Quit my job there, went to work for Novartis Pharmaceuticals as a project manager, worked with the FDA to bring 2 products to market. And then Jacob used to work at UCSF as a researcher. He then went to UC Berkeley, got his PhD. He's got over 15 papers published, and he was very focused on human health condition and improving human lives. Our senior team is Thanos. He's worked for a bunch of Fortune 500 companies. He's VP of operations. Laura Pfeiffer, who was our first employee. She's a PhD who's got over 10 years of experience working with Genomatica in strain engineering. Aaron Scott, who also a PhD, who got the Presidential Award for Green Chemistry. Jim Wade, who is a global authority on bio-based molecule discovery. Aaron Cantu, who is our fermentation lead. And then we just onboarded our business development lead, Tiffany Hurd. Our advisors and investors include Christian Angenmeyer, who is also the founder of Atai Life Sciences. Stephen Van Dien, who is the co-founder of Genomatica. He has over 50 patents and papers, also working with a new company called Persephone Biome. Lara Reshakova, who used to work for Dow Fermentation. Sydney, who works with us for regulatory and scientific guidance regarding going into clinical trials with Cleveland Clinic, with Atai Life Sciences and others. Frank Sapienza, who used to work for the DEA, and he has been instrumental in helping us acquire a DEA Schedule I license. So we are licensed by the federal government, one of the few companies in the space to have this particular sort of licensing. And then Alan Gableman, who is a process scientist and expert who has helped us scale up many of our applications. We're raising a $2 million convertible note. We've raised roughly almost 13 million previously, including from Y Combinator and other investors. 10% interest, 3 years, 20% discount. With these funds, we're looking to drive SG&A and then onboard more people in the lab, more people in business development. That's going to further drive revenues. This year, we're on track to make roughly $4.5 million. Next year is going to be somewhere around 8 to 9 million. It's very interesting to look at different models of how you can reap benefits from synthetic biology. So our JV with Atai Life Sciences, there's 6 ways that we're making money. One is royalties. Another one is IP licensing fees. We got $2 million just to license IP into this joint venture. We're making over $200K a month recurring revenue for strain engineering work that we're doing for them. We make about 40 to 60% margins off any molecules that we make for this company. We have, again, mentioned we have 7 granted patents, 12 pending, and many more in the works that we're writing up. We have a medical advisory board with one of the members is one of the leads at Cleveland Clinic. The second one is Dr. Stephen Wright, who was the chief medical officer at GW Pharma. And then finally, we are DEA scheduled. Thank you again for the opportunity and looking forward to your questions.
Great. We have run out of time. We could take a quick question, but optional, because we have to move on and share. The next thing would be you will meet one of these people who invest in medtech. So now our next company, he presented in our last event. We love the passion of this person. He took money from investors, then he paid them back because he wanted to, make this his sole company. He's not raising funds actively, but he just is very passionate, especially about LAM research capital, because it's his dream to make connections with them. And I'm like, why? We'll empower that. Why not? So it's my pleasure to present Ascentool and their CEO, George Guo.
Thank you. So here's my presentation. You can see it, right?
Yes.
Okay. Let me see how the part detect your graphics. Okay. So we're having the talk is about the technology and the equipment solution for semiconductor and clean energies. We are next to Tesla because when we had a contract to develop the 2 sets, PVD, PECVD, for their gigafab in 2015. But they never built that. It's sold to Panasonic. And it's next to Lam. It's 1.7 miles from Lam, in the heart of Silicon Valley. So my passion is to find the solutions to all the problems I see in the world. So I worked in the semiconductor industry since 1990 from applied materials, then left to Multibeam. I was the first employee at Multibeam, which is now run by the founder of Lam Research. Then worked in many companies, including ASM, Unity. So we built a multidiscipline expertise. So basically, I worked in every field of semiconductor. So a lot of problems that came up. I just want to have a solution for that. So basically, I kept on it and look at all the challenges and doing long-term research. So we've been doing the equipment and solutions since 2005. Basically, we try to find a solution for clean tech. Basically, the best way to do the clean tech manufacturers. So just take example what we do. We take like a 70 years old technology such as sputtering or PECVD. We list all the problems with it. Some people don't even think it's possible to solve it. So after 15 years, we'll just have a solution, build, iterate until it's perfect, solve all the problems and work together. The challenges work together, So we take that, the key is this, we have a plasma source, which we think is the lowest pressure, highest density plasma source in the world. It is, has very high density, run low pressure. So we take that technology, first, semiconductor. For example, we can do etch deposition at a very low pressure. Also have a lot of IP on how to put them together so that can add deep features. We have platform technology, like we combine the best of plant materials and the best of Novellus, which is part of LAM now. Basically a carousel tool that does independent process control. So it's low cost, high throughput. Then we do very deep via deposition and etch. So with LAM, we're hoping to work with them on the etch part. With the other company, the largest deposition company, we do the deposition. Also, we have IP on the lithography, multi-beam and EUV. So just to take example of what it looked like. This is very, very high aspect ratio, trench. So we can deposit lots of materials in there. It's the best ever seen, without damaging the surface too much, So the step coverage in this case is over 100%. So we can do the same thing with etch. So basically we have a method to manipulate, ions. So another application we do is also my passion is to solve the clean energy problem. If you look at the energy generation, like solar storage, like battery, saving energy, saving glass, they're all thin films on substrate. So we're the best in the thin film. So we have a lot of platforms and source technology to basically use material 100%. Just to give you an example, typically you use 10%. In semiconductor, you're lucky to use 3%. So we use 100%, collect them, get them out. We have very high throughput at low cost, no damage in transit uniformity. And they do that for multiple platforms, like panels, wafers, webs, things like that, basically deposition. We have a lot more IP. That's the thing about us is we have the time, we try different things. I want to solve all the problems I see, including, fusion, things like that. So a lot of IP. So how we monetize this is that first we work with a lot of customers. Typically we don't make money on those, but they pay some of the cost. Since I don't pay, for the last 17 years, just because of my passion, the company is actually profitable because when they share the cost, I pay the rest of people, So then we sell equipment. Our equipment, we use a contract manufacturing, things like that. So we sold the production lines, everything. So just an example, what we sold on the right, we sold, solar production lines. We sold the individual equipment, all this stuff. So to conclude that, we actually bring our partners, the application, the customers, and the money, So we're working with the world's largest equipment company, at least the deposition part, with largest thin film company. I'm actually inside to work with them to have solutions. The glass company, the hard disk company, multiple battery companies, typically silicon anode. And we have been profitable. We paid back all the investor and they kept their shares. Basically, when they invest in, it's a convertible loan. So when we made the money, we paid back the loan, but they still have the shares. So nobody's complaining. So basically I'm funding this by myself and kept a direction that I think is best for the company. So the partner, you can be a customer, can bring you solutions. You can be a partner, so we have provided solution together to our end customer, to be an investor. Even though we don't need the money per se, but the money will help. But it's very important to invest in our customers sometimes because we know some of them are very good and we want to help them. So that's all. Thank you.
Great. This is, once again, we want to bring 1-2 companies like this because there could be a lot of scope for CVC partnerships. Anyway, we went over time, but you are meeting with Kevin.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Lab Research. And so we got to now move on to the next company, our last company today, who's also a very active member of the Pitch Global community and a person with very, very impressive background, who's been in the PEO employee HR outsourcing space from the 90s, been involved with some very big deals in this event. in this space. And few years ago, he invested 2 million and acquired this company, and he's now taking it to the next level. It's my pleasure to introduce Gary Goldstein of Instinctive. Gary, floor is yours.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks, Casey. Appreciate you allowing me to present today. Let me set my clock here.
Yeah, and start sharing.
Let me share. All right, can you see my screen?
Yes.
All right, fantastic. So, hello, everybody. Thanks for taking the time to listen to our presentation today. Instinctive is empowering business automation through the human capital and workforce and data management, and now electronic payments. We work as a multi-tiered architected solution for service providers and their SME clients, which differentiates us in the marketplace. We do work with corporations direct, but work back to the service providers if we are lucky enough to win that business. And we focused on helping businesses and corporations automate the management of their office and remote-based employees. We do that through 4 product lines: document automation and management, HRIS and compliance, employee benefits administration, including premium billing and electronic payments, which solves age-old problems. And then our magic go-to solution is the Instinctive Integrated Hub. And we keep all HR and employee data in sync. So I've been in this business before, as Casey mentioned. I grew up one of the first online benefits administration platforms called BizNet. We sold that company in 2005. Unfortunately, they missed their IPO. We got to resell it again in 2008, but we had clients in 1999. Our second client was a little company called eBay, and they stayed with us till they were over 6,000 employees domestically. We had E-Trade, Sony PlayStation, Dryers Ice Cream, and so on. We were a national company. Our first client was a professional employer organization called the Outsource Group. And Martin is our genius CTO. Matt was the COO of the Outsource Group. And then once they sold that to TriNet, he started his own payroll company and benefits brokerage. And he sold that over 3 years ago to the company he was using the platform for. And is now, I convinced him to come out of retirement and start working for us about a month ago. And he's already getting us into a platform that has 3,300 businesses under management and working on others. Dominic just joined us this week and as an advisor, and he's our future Chief Product Officer. He's been focused on data integrations and transmissions, which is really critical for our Instinctive Integrated Hub. And he's been through 2 IPOs, one with Workday and the other one with Viva Systems. So we have 4 product lines that are integrated, but can be offered separately. So as a separate solution, different companies need different things. And so we can start wherever they have pain, do a great job, and offer other internal products as well as external integrated products. And this helps differentiate us in the marketplace. And we're accessing known markets because of my experience from the before and now with Matt and Dominic. We've got new possibilities as well. And we're solving age-old problems and creating new integrated ecosystems to solve others. As Casey mentioned, I've invested over 2.3 million into the convertible notes and purchased control of the company 5 years ago this next month. We have a proven stack and we're almost at cash flow break even, and 2022 is really proving to be a breakout year. As you can see, our revenues are starting to jump, and then with a little capital, then they'll really start jumping because we'll have salespeople and implementation people to drive more success. We're seeking $3 million of either convertible notes or a price round at an 8 million pre-money. We really prefer strategic and in CVC investment. And so this is a great timely event. As you can see, we've grown from the beginning of the year from 50 employer groups using our system to over 80. And we grow a couple different ways. We grow by acquiring and winning new distributor business and helping them expand their book of business, as well as winning new employer groups direct. So you can see our largest account is the a benefit broker owned by NFP, which is the 5th largest benefit broker in the country. And so there's a lot of acquisition that they're doing. And their client, the benefit broker, their client is the largest association in California. And there's over 50,000 association members on our system out of 130,000. And we have another division of NFP that chose us over everybody else. And we have an e-commerce solution that's really cool, including electronic payments, that's solving a ton of problems for them. And we have over 25 new companies on the system, with 5 more coming this month, and so on. And then we have Aligned Health Partners that's providing an alternative to traditional health insurance using our Instinctive Integrated Hub. And then we've got other groups that are starting to have chosen us, who are administrative services companies, and have chosen us because of the flexibility of our platform. So COVID has changed everything for businesses and corporations. They have to be more efficient, more effective, manage more documents, compliance, benefit offerings, validated data. And of course, with the Great Resignation, it's all about workforce retention, stabilization, and reducing costs. Channel service providers need to automate the management of their clients, offer an integrated platform, drive increasing revenues, cross-sell products and services, and leverage technology in order to be competitive against the Gustos, who's raised $700 million, Rippling has raised $700 million, and so on. So as I mentioned, we're a multi-tiered architected solution. We brand it to the client, brand it to the distributor, to their clients. Everybody accesses the system in a way that looks familiar to them. We're configurable, which makes us rapidly deployable, which also makes us disruptive in the market, and we're intuitively simple to use. Our product lines can be offered separately, and we have superior solutions for document automation and management, and benefits administration. And then our Instinctive Integrated Hub, we've identified over 30 different categories of products and services. And at our core, we're really a database to database data integration and management company. So, we're part of the ADP marketplace, which validates our business model. And we have a really big SAM. And then we win because we're a multi-tiered architected white label solution, modular, highly configurable, Instinctive Hub, and we're driving to profitability. And come join, put your money beside mine.
That's great, Gary. Great to see the upbeat message and the revenue growth and customer acquisition. Now,
Yeah, it's really been pretty fun considering what I've been going through.
Yeah, sorry to hear that. Hope we will talk. Just let's talk. I can talk later today, accepting
Yeah,
a 3. So just set it up. Oh, only thing is that, the CVCs here are very well connected to a lot of other CVCs, and they are all going, most of them are attending one of the world's largest gathering, next week. So if you have to say some wish lists, say 5 names of CVCs you want to connect with, why don't you say them? And maybe one of them here will keep that in mind when they are meeting people from Allstate, or, I sent you a couple more names I forgot, but they all go to this event. So can you just say 4 or 5 names?
I don't have any at my fingertips, but
what do you think?
Tip of my tongue, but
yeah,
certainly I'd love to speak to I don't see
ADP.
It. Yeah, I mean certainly ADP is a partner of ours. I think Xerox has some capabilities that would be interesting, especially the 200,000 SMB clients that they have, and certainly large corporations are looking at. So Tim would be an interesting person to talk to.
Okay, so all right, so let's talk. I had sent you a couple other names as well, CSAA and some of these. I don't remember the names.
ADP, yeah, they're on the other side of the business, and
okay,
so that the Allstates would be more akin, but they are not looking that way.
Hey Gary.
Yeah, hi Tim.
This is admittedly, a little outside of our wheelhouse, so I don't think we would be a good fit. But I know Randstad has a venture arm. Would they be a good fit for you guys?
Who?
Randstad. They're more of like a placement agency though, but they're pretty large.
Yeah, staffing and placement. They all need this kind of thing.
Yeah. And another name is Rand. Oh, you talk about Randstad, right? Now they have become Taproot, right? They have spun out their CVCR.
Yeah, I actually don't know them. I just know of them. So if actually, Casey,
They're in Switzerland. I think we have talked to someone in Switzerland for one of our companies. But thanks for reminding us. I'll also try to dig out the name. And ADP, I'm connected to the CVC Hormone head on LinkedIn. I'll just send you the profile, Gary. Great. This is what we want. And thanks for all our investors to participate very proactively. And we want to foster more and more dialogue because we are leading the charge on behalf of state of California in Silicon Valley. So any companies, any portfolio companies you CVCs have in Silicon Valley, and we can potentially get them access to free US government funded advisory and grants. And there is a company which Jim invested in, Caltech Angels. They tried to get a grant on their own and paid external agency and could not. And then through our network, US government funded, they got grant. Now they have got a second grant from DOD. So this really works, and it could be an added benefit, which maybe park companies want. Maybe it is too high beyond Xerox investments, but park, maybe if those kind of people may have, there could be some synergy here. And now with San Jose State Innovation, it's going to the next level. So on that note, we have reached the end. I'm going to just hand it over to Sharon, and she will close this event. And every person will be, we will email, you will see emails, and you will have meetings after this event whenever both you and the person you are meeting with, can come up with a, meeting point. So Sharon, floor is yours, and I thank everybody for co-creating such a great experience for all of us.
All right. Thank you, Casey. This was such a beneficial, very edifying event that hopefully everyone got something from it, from investors to our startups. Think of us as a community. If there's any way we can support you, you could see how generous Casey was during the session, offering tips and suggestions, and how the VCs are also trying to help you and support you in your growth. Everyone knows growing a startup is not easy, but you've taken the road less traveled, and you have better scars, but you're here and you're growing. So congratulations on that. And we have a great event coming up in October, as Casey said, and finally in person. So please join us. Casey, if you want to share a little bit about that, and then we can wrap up.
All right. Thank you once again. We are throwing a conference, CVC Meets VCs Meets Angels, and it will be on the evening of the last day of TechCrunch, and the following day. We are backed by State of California, and there is a chance they will buy out the event. If that happens, we can't take money from external, but that's not the point. The point is to create a very unique experience where entrepreneurs at all levels can meet CVCs, as well as meet funders from US government, State of California agencies and grants, which is not easy to bring such people together. So please mark your calendar. We will invite all of everybody. And once again, I feel this is the time to have a start annual conference. We've had a lot of summits before, and this would all take us to the next level, because in TechCrunch there'll be a lot of companies in town, a lot of VIPs in town. We were in private event with the president of Slovakia. Last time there was an in-person TechCrunch. We had event at CES Vegas, which was bought out by government of Hungary. And all these people, if we are looking to expand in EU, all these people will be there as well. So thank you, Sharon. And our next event is on 12th August, where we have CVC head of SK Gas, who has made several billion-dollar investments like Plug Power and Bloom Energy. He will be back. He's our new board member, and he will be interviewed by Jerry on 12th August. So mark your calendar for that as well. Thank you, everybody.
Excellent. Well, everyone keep on keeping on, but don't forget to rest this weekend.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.